Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Something that serves as a model or a basis for making copies. This painting is a copy of the original. An original creation, i.e., an audio recording, from which copies can be made. Being or productive of something fresh and unusual, or being as first made or thought of. A truly original approach. Not derived or copied or translated from something else. The play is original, not an adaptation. Of e.g. information, not secondhand or by way of something intermediary. His work is based on only original, not secondary, sources. Preceding all others in time or being as first made or performed. The original inhabitants of the Americas. Something that serves as a model or a basis for making copies. Something that serves as a model or a basis for making copies. A program exemplifying a contemplated series, intended to attract sponsors. Someone who is licensed to operate an aircraft in flight. An inclined metal frame at the front of a locomotive to clear the track. Operate an airplane. The pilot flew to Cuba. Small auxiliary gas burner that provides a flame to ignite a larger gas burner. Act as the navigator in a car, plane, or vessel and plan, direct, plot the path and position of the conveyance. A person qualified to guide ships through difficult waters going into or out of a harbor. A combatant who is able to defeat rivals. Get on top of. Deal with successfully. An authority qualified to teach apprentices. Key that secures entrance everywhere. Be or become completely proficient or skilled in. She mastered Japanese in less than 2 years. An original creation, i.e., an audio recording, from which copies can be made. Presiding officer of a school. Have dominance or the power to defeat over. Her pain completely mastered her. A person who has general authority over others. An officer who is licensed to command a merchant ship. An artist of consummate skill. A master of the violin. Have a firm understanding or knowledge of, be on top of. Most important element. The master bedroom. Directs the work of others. Someone who holds a master's degree from academic institution. An original creation, i.e., an audio recording, from which copies can be made. Being or producing something like nothing done or experienced or created before. A mind so innovational, so original. Being or producing something like nothing done or experienced or created before. Stylistically innovative works. Ahead of the times. Is British industry innovative enough? Original and of a kind not seen before. Of crops, harvested at an early stage of development, before complete maturity. New potatoes. Used of a living language, being the current stage in its development. Lacking training or experience. The new men were eager to fight. Having no previous example or precedent or parallel. Very recently. They are newly married. In use after medieval times. Not of long duration. having just, or relatively recently, come into being or been made or acquired or discovered. A new law. Often followed by, to, unfamiliar. New experiences. Other than the former ones, different. They now have a new leaders. Unaffected by use or exposure. It looks like new. Original and of a kind not seen before. The computer produced a completely novel proof of a well-known theorem. Pleasantly new or different. An extended fictional work in prose, usually in the form of a story. A printed and bound book that is an extended work of fiction. His bookcases were filled with nothing but novels. The ceremonial breaking of the ground to formally begin a construction project. Being or producing something like nothing done or experienced or created before. Radically new or original. An avant-garde theater piece. Any creative group active in the innovation and application of new concepts and techniques in a given field, especially in the arts. Radically new or original. The trait of being willing to undertake things that involve risk or danger. A challenge to do something dangerous or foolhardy. Disposed to venture or take risks. The most daring of contemporary fiction writers. Done by hand without mechanical aids or devices. A freehand drawing. Given or giving freely. A free-handed host. Done by hand without mechanical aids or devices. Original and of a kind not seen before. Not containing or composed of salt water. Fresh water. Improperly forward or bold. Don't be fresh with me. Not yet used or soiled. A fresh shirt. With restored energy. Free from impurities. Fresh air. Very recently. A freshly cleaned floor. Not soured or preserved. Imparting vitality and energy. Having recently calved and therefore able to give milk. The cow is fresh. Not canned or otherwise preserved. Fresh vegetables. Of a cycle, beginning or occurring again. A fresh start. Recently made, produced, or harvested. Fresh bread. Containing seeds of later development. 7th month of the revolutionary calendar, March and April, the month of buds. Having the ability or power to create. Containing seeds of later development. Containing seeds of later development. Seminal ideas of one discipline can influence the growth of another. Pertaining to or containing or consisting of semen. Seminal fluid. Not derivative or imitative. A natural underivative poet. Not derived, primary or simple. A preliminary election where delegates or nominees are chosen. Of or being the essential or basic part. One of the main flight feathers projecting along the outer edge of a bird's wing. Coil forming the part of an electrical circuit such that changing current in it induces a current in a neighboring circuit. Current through the primary coil induces current in the secondary coil. Most important element. Policemen were primary targets. Astronomy, a celestial body, especially a star, relative to other objects in orbit around it. Not derived from or reducible to something else, basic. A primary instinct. Of first rank or importance or value, direct and immediate rather than secondary. Primary goals. The fielding position of the player on a baseball team who is stationed at first of the bases in the infield, counting counterclockwise from home plate. Indicating the beginning unit in a series. Serving to set in motion. His first, or maiden, speech in Congress. Serving to begin. The first verse. The time at which something is supposed to begin. Ranking above all others. Was first in her class. Prominently forward. The lowest forward gear ratio in the gearbox of a motor vehicle, used to start a car moving. The first element in a countable series. The first of the month. Before anything else. First we must consider the garter snake. The first or highest in an ordering or series. He wanted to be the first. An honors degree of the highest class. Highest in pitch or chief among parts or voices or instruments or orchestra sections. First soprano. Preceding all others in time or space or degree. The first house on the right. Having the ability or power to create. A creative imagination. Promoting construction or creation. Creative work. Not conforming to legality, moral law, or social convention. An unconventional marriage. Not conforming to accepted rules or standards. Her unconventional dress and hairstyle. Not conventional or conformist. Unconventional lifestyles. A person who poses for a photographer or painter or sculptor. The president didn't have time to be a model, so the artist worked from photos. Construct a model of. Model an airplane. A representative form or pattern. A hypothetical description of a complex entity or process. The computer program was based on a model of the circulatory and respiratory systems. Worthy of imitation. Model citizens. Representation of something, sometimes on a smaller scale. A woman who wears clothes to display fashions. Something to be imitated. A model of clarity. Someone worthy of imitation. Every child needs a role model. The act of representing something, usually on a smaller scale. Create a representation or model of. Form in clay, wax, etc. Model a head with clay. Assume a posture as for artistic purposes. Plan or create according to a model or models. A type of product. His car was an old model. Display, clothes, as a mannequin. Model the latest fashion. A representative form or pattern. I profited from his example. Something to be imitated. An occurrence of something. But there is always the famous example of the Smiths. An item of information that is typical of a class or group. This patient provides a typical example of the syndrome. Punishment intended as a warning to others. They decided to make an example of him. A task performed or problem solved in order to develop skill or understanding. You must work the examples at the end of each chapter in the textbook. The human act of creating. The event that occurred at the beginning of something. From its creation, the plan was doomed to failure. The act of starting something for the first time, introducing something new. Everything that exists anywhere. An artifact that has been brought into existence by someone. Theology, God's act of bringing the universe into existence.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.